What's up, everybody? Welcome to System Crafters Live. I'm David Wilson, and we're back again with another Friday stream where we get together as a community and talk about whatever topic I've come up with for the week. And this week is no different. First of all, I'd like to say hello to all the folks who have joined so far. Alejandro sends his regrets he can't be here today. That's okay. I Despise Nicknames, Avi K, Gunn, Christopher Nelson, Tom Carroll, Daigo, Palms, Mark Owen, Rostislav, Derek. Nice to see all of you. Thanks so much for being here. Mateus. So, interesting times we're living in right now with the rapid progression of AI tools. We'll talk a little bit about the history and things in a moment, but, it's made me think a lot about stuff, and that's why we're doing the stream today. So I think it should be pretty interesting. Hello to Theo Peckley, to Stefan, Deja Fu, R. Primus, Quinn, Strix. Thank you all for being here. So I want to just mention one thing before we jump into it. Today I'm using kind of a different donation provider. I mean, there's always the YouTube super chat thing, but YouTube is very greedy. So I'm doing something a little bit different this time. I'm using this Ko-fi coffee. I don't know how to pronounce this. It has a very strange name, but it seems pretty cool. So it's another kind of donation site, support site. If you're interested in leaving donations during the stream, please feel free to hop over there and check it out. It's got this little widget up at whatever side of the screen that is. You can probably see there. Anyway, just wanted to mention that. But let's get into the actual topic. So I titled this stream, Crafting the Future, AI Assistants in Emacs, basically because I feel like we've reached a new realm of computer use now with the advent of all of these AI assistant tools, or just, AI content creation tools, first there was DALL-E, which was, generating images, which weren't very good, but, it showed that it was able to do that. And then, things like Mid-Journey, Stable Diffusion came along. And then the company OpenAI released the GPT-3 model, or ChatGPT, I suppose. And I think that was maybe 4, 5, 6 months ago, not that long ago. And, it was pretty impressive. It's pretty cool what it was capable of doing. You could ask it questions, it could give you information, but things have continued to evolve since then. There's also been GitHub Copilot, which I think has been around longer than ChatGPT has it been like a year? How long has that been? But anyway, these tools are gradually getting even more sophisticated, especially with GPT-4 that just came out. And I decided this week to try them out. I hadn't used GitHub Copilot at all. I had not used, I used ChatGPT for like 5 minutes one day, maybe a couple months ago, but I hadn't really tried to use them at length. But I started giving them more of a chance this week, and I was pretty surprised at what they were capable of. And in the context of Emacs, I think it's very interesting to consider the use of these tools because of the fact that everything happening in Emacs is text. And if these tools are able to communicate with you through text, through natural language, where you're writing things to them and they're giving you stuff back, then there are opportunities where leveraging these tools could make you much more productive. Now, later we'll talk about whether you should or shouldn't use them, maybe what are the ethical or legal concerns of using them. But before we get all to that, let's have some fun first. Let's get drunk off of AI, and then we can talk about what the regrets might be. Let's see. Hello to Boyan, to Murillo. Nice to see you. And let's jump into it. So We're going to try first the gptel package by Karthik, or Karthink, who you might know of from the Emacs community. He's got a really great blog and also has written a few useful packages like Popper. You can check out the repo on GitHub at github.com/karthink/gptel. I haven't really looked at any of the other GPT integration packages because I think there's more than one of them, but I'm using Karthik's package because I know Karthik, or at least I know him through, speaking to him online, and I know the quality of his work. So I just decided, well, if he wrote the package, then I'm going to use it. So this one is pretty easy to get started with, and we'll do that in just a second. I've actually got it set up already, but it's got a pretty good little description of how to use it. Basically, the most straightforward way to use it is to use the gptel command to open up a buffer where you can basically write prompts to any of the GPT models that are available through, well, I say any, I'm guessing it's any of the models that are available through the OpenAI API, which would be like ChatGPT, or aka GPT 3.5 or GPT-4. But if you want to use GPT-4, you have to pay for the ChatGPT Plus, which is like $20 a month. And if you're serious about using AI assistants, then I think it's worth it. And you'll see why if I can get it to work. Right before the stream, I tried to use it and it didn't let me for some reason. Don't know why, but we'll try it again. But it's significantly better than ChatGPT, in my opinion. So yeah. It's worth trying this with ChatGPT, aka GPT 3.5 first, and just see what kind of results you get, because it's pretty good, but you'll probably want the more powerful version later, I think. So anyway, the important thing about this package is that it requires you to have an OpenAI API key. And you can sign up on the OpenAI website for free. I'm not logged in here, but I've got my authentication stuff already set up in Emacs. But you sign up for free. You can use ChatGPT through the website for free with some limited number of queries per day. But then if you go to this API keys link, you can actually generate an API key, and I think you have some limited number of tokens you can use per day in the API. But that is a way to freely get started with GPT in Emacs using gptel just by creating this API key. Once you do that, the first time you run gptel, it's going to prompt you for your API key in the echo area down here at the bottom of the screen. And you will be able to paste it in. I don't really recommend doing that because you're going to be storing an API key plain text in a variable, but if you're just getting started with it, then it makes sense to just do it the easy way. I think that this package does integrate with auth source in Emacs. So if you've got like auth source pass set up to use the pass command line tool for storing your password securely on your local machine, then that should be able to pull it in, or even like a password file that's set up in Emacs. I've got a video on using storing passwords in Emacs if you want to learn how to do that. But point being, you will have to authenticate with an OpenAI API key to use this. But let's just go ahead and get started. I'm going to run the gptel command, and it really just pops me up into a buffer here. I've got it configured to use an org mode buffer for the initial interaction. So it'll look like an org file, but we'll be able to talk to the chatbot through this. Hello to Fikri, to Kark, Benoit, GK Sudo. Nice to see you all. Thanks so much for being here. All right, so, well, let's see. What do we want to ask the bot? Let's start with something really simple. What can you tell me about Emacs? Now, once you type in the prompt at the end of this heading in your org file, you can press Control-C, Enter, and then it will make an API request, and then that will start typing out the response directly in this buffer. So you can see that it sort of streams in the text. That's not a default setting. I actually turned that on because I kind of like the way it works, but you can see that the response is actually coming in from the service. So it tells us that Emacs is a powerful and extensible text editor with a wide variety of features, including customizable key bindings, blah, blah, blah. So, pretty good writing for that, but that could have come just from doing a web search and pulling stuff in. Let's try something else. How do you disable the menu bar in Emacs? Control-C, Enter, and let's see what it tells me. Takes a little while. You can disable the menu bar in Emacs by adding the following line to your Emacs configuration. So the cool thing about this is that when the result comes back, certain things will actually be given in like code text, I guess. So these will be highlighted correctly in org mode. I don't know if this is a thing that gptel is somehow like converting markdown text that comes back into org mode, or if ChatGPT actually can respond in org. That would be pretty cool if it could. But it did tell us that we could use the menu bar mode -1 in our init.el file. Okay, that's interesting that we could ask it that question. What if I want to go a little bit further and say something like, how do I turn off all of the extraneous UI in Emacs so that the experience is more minimal? I don't know if it can answer this question. I know GPT-4 can answer this, but I haven't tried 3.5 with this yet. To turn off all extraneous UI elements in Emacs, and create a more minimal interface, you can add the following lines to your Emacs configuration, usually .emacs or init.el. And it basically goes through telling you, turn off menu bar, toolbar, scroll bar mode, inhibit startup screen, turn off cursor blinking, and turn off the ring bell function. So you can start to see how this would be pretty useful for figuring out how to do things in Emacs. You can go even further with this when we get into looking at GitHub Copilot in a little bit, but you can get pretty far with this just by itself. So throw me some questions in the chat if you want to like ask ChatGPT something, because obviously, you know, that's pretty good, but maybe it can go even further than this. Let me think about what I could ask it. Let's ask it something a little bit more difficult. Is that the new Stack Overflow? Well, basically. It would be nice if it knew that it was Emacs Lisp and turned on like Emacs Lisp mode here for highlighting, but that's fine that it doesn't do that. So let's see, what could I do? Write an Emacs Lisp function, prettify org mode. Okay, let's do that. Create a configuration that improves the experience of org mode. Okay, I got a couple of suggestions here, which I will do. Hold on a second. Create a configuration that improves the experience of org mode. Let's see, the visual look of org mode to appear more modern. Control C, enter. Let's see if it actually does this. Taking some time. Just got to think about it for a minute. Interesting suggestion from Drew there. I wonder what's happening. Okay, cool. It took a minute for it to come up with something. Okay, so this is like saying, all right, org bullets, fontify natively. I mean, it's given us quite a lot of stuff here. I don't know why it's pulling in Solarize. I didn't ask for that, but. Okay, so it gives us a configuration, and it also describes what it's doing. Enables a visual line mode for org mode, which I would definitely do. Sets a custom theme. Uses org bullets, which I would do. Customizes appearances of code blocks to use the same font and indentation as the surrounding text. Customizes appearances of checkboxes. So it's doing quite a few things here, which is pretty cool. It's nice that it can do that. And I think that what we'll try to do in a little while is actually make a full, well, not a full, we're going to try to create an Emacs configuration using these tools. GK Suda says, I think that ChatGPT remembers that these are Emacs Lisp related questions. Yeah, whenever you have like a session set up, especially if you're using the real chat UI on OpenAI's website, it does a very good job of remembering the context of the conversation, especially GPT-4. I'll tell you a little bit about my experiences with that soon. Let's see. What do people say? Quinn says, why is insert faulty code not working? I don't know. Ask how to integrate linter for Python mode, Ivan says. Well, let's see. How do I integrate a Python linter with Python mode in Emacs? Or actually, let's just say with Python mode to not give it too much context. Control C, enter. I need to make sure also that I'm using, yeah, I'm using GPT 3.5 Turbo right now. So this is definitely not GPT-4. So it's doing pretty good, actually, in my opinion, with these suggestions. All right, so it's coming in with like Flake 8. And it's giving step-by-step instructions. To integrate a Python linter such as Flake 8 or PyLint, follow these steps. Pip install Flake 8, use fly check. This is not rendering correctly. I don't know why this time. But yeah, it just turns on fly check mode for Python. And then sets up it tells you to set up a Flake 8 configuration, etc. So, I mean, it basically does that. Let's see. Fenico says, is that gptel? Yes, it does. Russellsoft says, I sent Emacs gptel to Geeks Upstream. Cool. I'm going to use that. Corey says, I feel bad for math professors. Why? Let's see. Benoit says, what is the best rabbit hole package for Emacs? I wonder if it will actually understand that question. Let's see. What is Emacs is a rabbit hole. What is the best rabbit hole package for Emacs? Let's see what it gives us on that. And also, Drew gave a suggestion, build an S-expression flashlight mode that progressively dims expressions further from your mouse cursor. That would be interesting if it could do that. I have a feeling that GPT-4 could do it if 3 can't do it. Ask it to write a GPT client for Emacs. That's also a very good idea. Okay, so it's got, a balanced perspective here. The best rabbit hole package for Emacs is subjective, of course, as it depends on personal preference. However, one popular package is org mode that can lead down a rabbit hole of customization, blah, blah, blah. You can easily get lost in customizing your task management system. While org mode can be overwhelming at first, package provides a deep and customizable environment. It wrote all that. I don't think this is coming from a website. In fact, let's just take this text. Let's Google that. Sort of like, there's no verbatim representation of this text. So it's basically being written, as far as we can tell, on the fly. If I just do this whole substring, tracking habits, yeah, so this actual literal string does not show up at all. You just get a lot of org mode responses, basically. So it tells you that it's being written. Let's see what Ismail's suggestion does. Can you write a client for the OpenAI chat API in Emacs Lisp? Let's see what it does. It might take a little while for it to start coming up with something for this. Is it doing anything? I'm trying to scroll without disrupting the cursor position. There we go. Yes, it's possible to write a client for the OpenAI chat API. Yeah, so here you go. You're getting some relatively sophisticated Emacs Lisp here. What is it using for the request, URI request method? So it can tell you how to contact it. I don't know why it's putting temperature to 0.5 to start with, probably because it doesn't want to be too punchy, I guess. One little extra slash here. But, I mean, it seems okay. In fact, why not try it, huh? Let's see. Let's pull this over into a file. I'm just curious to see if this would actually work in practice. Let's put it into the scratch buffer. Isn't it copying the code from Git or something? No, it's not copying. I don't know that anybody ever wrote this specific code before. So OpenAI key. Let me not use that. Let me use the function that I have because I don't want to just like blurt it out. OpenAI. Whoa, where's it? Okay, right there. I want to call the function that I created dw/read open. Come on. There it is. Okay. So OpenAI chat input. Send input to OpenAI chat API and return the response with current buffer, response buffer. And where is response buffer? Okay, cool. I guess it would just give us a result back, and we could take a look at that potentially. What I could do is with current buffer, get or create. What is it? Get create buffer. What is the function called? Get create. Get create. No. Get buffer create. Okay. Get buffer create. OpenAI test. Yes, let's just call it that, huh? And then switch to buffer, current buffer. We're just gonna try this out and see what happens. Is that a function? I think it's a function. I should be letting Copilot write this for me. Okay, so I'm going to take that part out, and I will go try to eval this part of the code. Eval region. Okay, let's run this and see what happens. Wrong number of arguments. JSON read object. Okay. So here's the thing. Thing to keep in mind when using either of the chat models or GitHub Copilot is that sometimes it does things wrong, and it will call functions that either don't exist or it doesn't give them the right parameters. But there's ways to fix that. Hey, Fade. Let's see. JSON read object. So save current buffer. Oh, sorry. Yeah, save current buffer. JSON read object. So where is that here? JSON read object. Now this is complaining, so it must be saying a call with one argument but accepts only 0. Buffer substring, no properties. What does it say? Read the JSON object at point. Okay. Go to care point min. JSON read object. Buffer substring, no properties. All right. So let's try this. I don't know if it works with ChatGPT, but we're gonna try it. If it remembers the context. Let's see if the gptel client will do this correctly. JSON read object does not take any parameters. Can you fix the code? Control C, enter. Let's see what it does. GPT-4 can do this. Like, you can tell it that there's a problem with the code, and it can figure it out and fix it. Ah, okay. Let's see. Here's the corrected code. So it doesn't realize that it does something wrong. And something here looks wrong too. It's got equal signs. But it can try to fix it based on what you tell it. And here now it's changed the way that it tries to read the output with current buffer, response buffer. So if I go here and paste this in, you'll see that it's actually different. Go to care, URL, HTTP end of headers, JSON read. So it's a completely different way of accomplishing the same thing, which is kind of interesting. So let's see if we can get the parens to balance now. Okay, and I'll re-eval this function. Now let's try to run it again, see what happens. So it opened the buffer. I'm not seeing any output yet though, so there could have been an error that we just didn't see. Anyway, this is just to show that you may have to tweak the output that you get. But what I would say is the benefit of this is that you may not know how to access a REST API in Emacs using the, URL retrieve synchronously function, which is built into Emacs. So if you've never seen this before, then this is an opportunity for you to learn how to write some valid Emacs code, Emacs Lisp code, just based on the fact that it told you how to solve this specific problem. So it's really interesting, I think, as a way to maybe learn how to do new things. It's really up to you whether you think it's worth using, I guess, for that purpose. But I think it's pretty helpful. So Let me see if I can get GPT-4 to work, because I think it does a better job of all this. I don't know if it's actually going to work, but let's see. If I change setQ GPT EL dash model, yeah, set that to GPT-4, I wonder if it will work inside this buffer. So let's see. Well, it might send all this again. Can you try writing that example again? Let's just see what it does. I don't know. I might get an error this time because I got an error the last time I tried to use GPT-4. We'll see if it's GPT-4 now. I'm not sure. And I can't tell you whether the output is actually GPT-4 or not, but I'll see if I can check the buffer variable. Let's see. Correctly emits the parameters for JSON read object. Instead, retrieves the JSON response using JSON read. Additionally, uses the correct endpoint for the codecs API. Now, what did it say before? So this says this version correctly uses JSON read instead of JSON read object. This time it gives more context at the end. I think that may actually be GPT-4. Rostislav says, in my experience, it takes too much time to use GPT-4 for eLisp and Guile scheme hacking. They're too far from the mainstream. I did try to get it to write Guile for me today, and it mentioned a library for Guile that I'm not sure actually exists. I wasn't able to find it, so it was making stuff up. Sometimes it will invent things that don't exist, so you do have to be careful whenever it tells you to do something. Kind of weird. So let me see. Let's double check the variable. Yeah, it says it's GPT-4 now. Let me eval in context of the buffer, GPT EL mode. So maybe it's, whoops, nope. So maybe it actually is working. Okay. So now that we've switched to GPT-4, code fiction. Yes, code fiction indeed. Let's think of what else we could do. Can you write an interactive chat buffer for ChatGPT in Emacs? Let's see what it gives me with this suggestion. What client is this? This is the GPT-EL client. It's called GPT-EL. It does not have a dot before the EL. So let me see what it does with this question. GPT-4 is pretty sophisticated, so I think it will be able to get somewhere close to this. I don't know if we can actually use it, though. Here's an example code snippet. Oh, and it using the OpenAI chat function that we defined earlier. So it knows that it defined a function for that earlier, and now it's using that function in a new function, basically. And it explains everything too, which is a lot better than what it was doing with the ChatGPT. So let's take a look at this. ChatGPT mode map. It creates a mode map. Cool. Creates a derived mode from special mode. Makes it read only, which may be good. ChatGPT send is an interactive function. It will basically do like a REPL. Looks like you have the character at a point, and it will take that text. You input, response, OpenAI chat input, line beginning position, line end position, okay. Then ChatGPT start, which is an interactive command. It switches to a buffer called ChatGPT, which should probably have stars around it. Oh, it does have stars around it, actually. It's just the way that my buffer's set up that's doing that. Org appear. Huh, it's bolded, so there must be stars there. SetQ local buffer face mode. It's giving it a variable pitch font, interesting, and making it quite big. Setting some other variables, using the key map, clearing the buffer, and then starting a conversation. So let's see what this does. I'm kind of curious to see if it actually works. I'm going to just eval all these functions and see what happens. Let's just let a bot write our code. Ooh, unbalanced parentheses. What happened? It gave one extra paren somehow, unless extra parentheses for free. All right, chat GPT start. Let's try that. Starting chat GPT conversation. Yeah. Hello. Are you there? So wrong type argument, char or string p. Let's turn on toggle debug on error. Trying again. Okay, so okay, it's trying to pull the response out of the response, I think. Anyway, it just goes to show that, you know, it will get you pretty far, but you'll have to do a little bit of debugging on your own. Fenico says, I've been using it to help me learn eLisp, and sometimes it does mention stuff that just doesn't seem to exist. It tries to correct itself, but sometimes I give up and just go to Google. Yeah, it is like that sometimes. All right. But, you know, it's pretty interesting that it can get that far. And I don't think that's the right way to write a REPL style thing, or... Wait, where did we go? This? No. Oh, snap. I think it killed our existing buffer. That's fine. I'll create a new one. So gptel. What's happening? Did it break gptel with what it just did? I think it did. Oh, okay. Now it's fine. All right. Hello, data monoid. Give back debug info. Yeah, I could do that, but I don't feel like wasting our time on that. I think we could do some other cool stuff. Ashra says, listening in from my commute on bike. What's cooking today? Well, it's pretty interesting that you're listening to this while you're riding a bike. We're messing with ChatGPT and GPT-4, and also GitHub Copilot in Emacs. All right, so now that we're using GPT-4, let's see if it can do the thing that Drew suggested before. So Drew suggested to build an S-expression flashlight mode that progressively dims expressions further from your mouse cursor. Now, what I found is that it's better to be a lot more specific to get a better result, because we could try it like this and see what happens. But usually what I'll do is I'll give it requirements. I'll just like give a whole like paragraph saying what it should do and how it should work, and then it gets better results. But let's try it just with this. Let's see if it understands what we're saying. So Control-C, enter. Wow. Okay, interesting. Maybe actually this is ChatGPT. Let me see. Yeah, okay, cool. Let's change the model then, because I think that we need to go back to GPT-4. Let's see what GPT-4 says about that, because I think that it will be a bit more optimistic. I've never had it tell me it can't do something. It just does it anyway. All right, so Control-C, enter. Giving it some time, see what it does. Come on, you can do it. I believe in you. Okay, it's using overlays, which is a good sign. So it's doing something. We're going to see if it works. And it also explains exactly what it did, which is far beyond what you get from... Oh, and it also says it's Emacs Lisp code too. So that's another difference. But it's far beyond what you get from ChatGPT, for sure. All right, so let's take this code. I wish I had saved the other stuff that we had written out before. I wanted to put it in the show notes. Let me do this, actually. Oh, no. I want to get the whole thing. Let's drop that right here. This is interesting for scientific purposes. All right, so delete that and delete these things. Cool. So now let's take a look at this. I'm gonna look at the code first. S expression flashlight overlay. So it's creating a variable to store the overlay. Hide and show overlay. When it shows the overlay, event start last input event. So it's checking input events. Save excursion to save the cursor position. When exp ignore, okay. Forward S expression. Hard to see what it does. We'll have to run it and see what happens. And it sets it to gray. Okay. So I don't think it understood progressively, because I think it would have changed the color. But anyway, let's try it. I'm going to run all of this up to the hooks. Pre-command hook, post-command hook. So this should only do... Oh, we'll try this too. Let me run this. Eval region. All right, so we have these functions now. Pre-command hook, post-command hook. This could kill Emacs. I don't know. This seems pretty overkill, but hey, let's see what happens. Pre-command hook, post-command hook. Not really doing anything yet. Is it for a particular mode? When mouse event P, last input event. Flashlight show overlay. Huh. Let's see if it's set up. No. Oh, it needs to be in the local buffer, right? So I think if I put nil t, still not doing anything. Let's check that again. Sharpest Thought says, Italy is blocking ChatGPT because it doesn't use any gestures when saying something. Drew says, I'm shocked that it eval without errors. Yeah, me too, to be honest. Well, it doesn't seem to be doing anything. Let me check. Where is it? Show, maybe show overlay. I like that it has even that kind of level of logic. Message. Should overlay. I don't know. So, oh, I saw it. Okay, I'm seeing the message written out, but it doesn't actually do anything in practice. Make overlay. Background. Oh, it's trying to set the background color? And what is the face? This seems wrong. Let me see what this function. I've never used overlays before, so I'm not exactly sure. Property prop value. Is that for prop face? Is this descriptor enough to do that, or does it need to have extra information? Okay, so since it doesn't work, let's tell it. I tried this code, and I don't actually see the overlay show up. The background color, or the color of the text does not change. Can you fix it? Control C, enter. Let's see what it does now. Minas Mazer says, hello crafters, greetings from Italy. Yes. I'm sure you can use ChatGPT, Minas Mazer. Let's go GPT-4. Let's see if you can do it. Quinn says, tangentially related, ChatGPT and GPT-4 make me think that Turing tests may be bogus. Well, yes, because it gives very convincing responses, but this is definitely not a general intelligence, an artificial general intelligence, or AGI, because it can't think on its own. It only thinks based on information that the model has been trained on. I'm sorry that the code isn't working as expected. Here's an updated version of the code that should work. Okay, so now it's giving me something it thinks would work. Let's see, what's changed? it should tell me what changed. Yes, so it gives me a list of changes, which is pretty awesome. Using backward S expression to get the nearest X expression before the cursor, computing a distance, use it to set the dimming level, which it should have done to begin with, but it didn't. Setting the face of the overlay to a gray color that gets darker as distance from the cursor increases. See, that's critical right there. That is sophisticated understanding of what progressively darker meant in the original request. So where did we say that? That progressively dims expressions further from your mouse cursor. It unpacked this whole phrase, and it knows that you want it to make a color gets darker as the distance from the cursor increases. That's pretty badass, in my opinion. Data Monoid says, why is the query slow? Because magic is happening. That's why it's slow. Okay, so moving the overlay to the cursor position each time it happens. Try testing it again and let me know if you have any issues. Cool, thanks, buddy. I think it's this function that needs to be replaced. So let's copy that one and drop it in here. It would be nice if it could just update it in line in my code, which maybe gptel.el makes it possible, but haven't tried that yet. All right, so I'm gonna reeval that function. I still don't see anything really happening, but maybe I still need to copy something else. Maybe show overlay. So we have the hooks set up. Let me check describe variable on pre-command hook. Local bug for Scratch. Okay, that's what it is globally, right? Hey, Glenn. So let me try opening another file. So .files.emacs.d modules. Let's open an Emacs list file. I'm gonna start. Oh, I see some backgrounding on some of these, unless that's from a bad theme change. So I noticed that there is one character here. I think it's doing something, but it's not working all the way across the board. I'll tell it. So that's better, but it seems that it only darkens the character position just before the cursor. Do you know why? Let's see what it tells me now. Takes a little time. It actually is faster on the website, I found. Like if you go to the chat.openai.com and use it there, it's much faster. I get like immediate responses. It also could be that a lot of people are using this right now just because of, you know, America woke up. Okay, now it has another theory about why the code didn't work, and it's trying to write it again. So we'll try it again after this and see what happens. And if it doesn't work, we'll move on to something else. But still pretty interesting that it's trying more and more. I see that it's picking faces based on values. All right, changes include using the previous single property change function to find the beginning of the current colored S expression. Wow. So it's trying harder and harder to do this. It gives you the simplest possible thing first, and then continues going further as it can. Okay, so let's paste this in right here, delete the previous code, and then we'll do that. I don't know if it's actually working still. Oh, attempted to use mini buffer in mini buffer. I don't know what I did wrong. Flashlight hide overlay. Let me make sure I'm not doing something else wrong. Flashlight show overlay. Maybe show overlay. Should all be working. I mean, just the setup should be working. It could be something else. I don't know. It's because the ChatGPT team is trying to monetize my flashlight idea before we can get it to market. Probably. Darth Vader says, what window manager are you using? I'm using Sway in Wayland. All right, at any rate, it's interesting that it tried and it produced a lot of code. Maybe someone could learn something from that. Let's see if I can copy and paste the later suggestion. If someone wants to give it a try to fix that code up and put it online somewhere, you know, leave a comment on the stream after the fact. Updated version. All right. So that's pretty cool, right? I mean, being able to just, you know, tell it to do a bunch of stuff. Probably there's other things you can do that would be easier for it to accomplish, but, you know, testing these things also can be tricky. What we could do though is let's say this. Can you? Here's a new project. Can you write a minimal modern Emacs configuration for me? This is GPT-4, by the way. I don't know that GPT-3 can do the same thing. I haven't tried this yet, but I'm pretty sure it will work. We'll try it with GPT 3.5 ChatGPT after this and see what the differences are between the results. Can you write a minimal modern Emacs configuration for me with a nice color theme and using the following packages: Vertigo, Marginalia, Orderless. What else? Org mode, Magit. What else would be interesting? I'm trying to think what else. Let's see. Avi. I don't know. What other packages should I put in here? Let's not go too crazy, but maybe, you know, just a couple. Evil. Okay, cool. Yeah, evil mode. And write it all using use package. Also, use the straight.el package manager. We'll put Embark in there too. Sly, Corfu. Okay, let's say Corfu. Eglot, thank you. Yeah, Magit. Come on. Eglot. All right, so let's go with this, right? Control C, enter. Let's see what it does for us. Ismail says, we can paste the code of gptel and ask for adding new features like saving the code in answer to be saved in Killer Ring. Yes, you can do that. You know, you could definitely contribute to the gptel project by using GPT-4 for sure. Certainly, here's an example. All right, so we're setting up straight.el. Cool. Configuring use package. Evil, Eglot, Magit, Org, Corfu, Embark, Orderless, Marginalia, Vertigo, Doom themes, and it's choosing Groovebox, which is interesting. I don't know what criteria it used. All right, what did it miss anything? So we got Evil, Avi, Eglot, Magit, Org. It didn't do anything for Org. All right, so here's what we'll do. I'll tell it. I'd like to have a more, what's the right word? Complete org configuration with an improved visual appearance. Can you update, or can you tell me how you would change the current configuration for org? So we'll see what it gives me for that, and then when we have that, we'll copy it and we'll run it and see if it actually works. Sig says Groovebox for the win. Never been a fan of it really, to be honest. And then we'll ask it some more interesting things, but this is a good start. Come on, let's go. Okay, so now it's going to add some extra stuff to us, for us. Yeah, okay, so we got a better visual appearance. It's got some org bullets. Raleigh says, I think it's better to ask it how it would improve the current configuration to improve visual appearance. That could be interesting too. All right, so it's got a lot of stuff it's adding in here. Org tempo, all right, cool. Now, one thing to keep in mind with all this is that the data that these models are trained on apparently goes up to about the end of 2021. So some of the stuff you might know about, like let's say a package like denote, the note-taking package by Portosilaus. It doesn't know about that package. In fact, if I ask it about it, have you heard of the Emacs package denote? Do you know what it does? Let's see if it can do that. Because I think denote showed up in 2022. If it tells me I heard of it, then it's because I told it about it. Okay. It's making stuff up. This is not right. I don't know if there was a different package called denote at some point in the past, but it's telling me some stuff that is not real. Who wrote the Emacs package named, or who wrote that package? Let's see. Fikri has a good question. Ask about Emacs 29 tree sitter. Yeah. John Weagley. Okay, so definitely not the correct thing. It says he also wrote GNUs and Ledger, which is true. Magic he did not write, unless Magic. I think Magic may have existed before Jonas Bernoulli, so maybe he did have something to do with it earlier. But yeah, some of this stuff is not right. Okay, John Weagley, denote. I don't think that exists. So use caution. Sometimes it will tell you things that are total lies, but it more often than not tells you good stuff. So that's why it's useful. Okay, so let's try this configuration that it wrote up for us here. Let's go all the way up to the top. I got a feeling it might not work correctly. Ask for the link of the package. Great question. All right, let's see. I'm gonna copy this. I'm gonna put it into a new file called, let's see. Or a folder. Let's say new config in init.el. Is this gonna work for me? Okay, cool. There we go. I created the folder. Let's go down and grab the org config that it gave us, which is pretty long. All right, and then org. Let's replace the org config here with what it told us to use. Now, let me go into a shell. I think there's a parameter I can use for this now in Emacs 29, which is user dash. Emacs version 29. Where is the parameter for setting the config directory? -u. Okay, so Emacs -u new config. Come on. Let's see what it does. Oh, that's wrong. It's running my configuration, so weird. Oh, wait, hold on. Let's be more, oh, is it capital U? Is that what I did wrong? No? Oh. I swear there's a parameter for this. Palm says, ask it to create a movie script about Emacs Skynet. It could do something like that for sure. Damn. This is annoying me because I know it has a parameter for this, but maybe it's just like an old build. Has work, right? Describe variable, user Emacs directory. How to load a config file? Yeah, it won't know about newer stuff. Emacs 29 parameter user Emacs directory. Let's just see what this is supposed to be. Init directory, is that what it's called? Okay, it doesn't exist here yet, unless... Let's try it. Emacs -init- directory. QU, yeah, that works too, but I want it to really, like, do something different here. Okay, maybe? Okay, it's working. Let's see what happens. Ashraz is riding a bike and giving us Emacs command line parameters. That's pretty hardcore. All right, so it's setting up straight because I can see it cloning the repos. Let's see how far it gets before it crashes and says that something doesn't load. The thing about the suggestions it's giving is that some of these packages that I told it to use have changed a lot since 2021. So some of the configuration variables may not be the same anymore, or functions that you have to call. So it's possible that it will give us a config that doesn't actually work totally right. But once all this is done, we'll see what it does. If it gives us a good starter configuration, that's pretty funny. Then I'll just shut down my YouTube channel now because you don't need me anymore. All you need is just to watch or to talk to ChatGPT or GPT-4. Come on, let's go. It takes forever to pull these ELPA repositories because of the way that the stuff works with Straight. Fade says, I had the impression that OpenAI was updating the models over time. Is that not true? I don't think so. It doesn't seem to have newer information, as far as I can tell. My understanding is they have a base model that has been trained on all the information, and they make derived models from it. So I don't know if they update the base model that often, but I could be wrong about that. So it's cloning the packages we asked for. It's getting this far at least. Taking a long time to clone Avi. I wonder if it's pulling a bunch of other packages under the covers. Building, okay, cloning eglot. Some other stuff. Doesn't need to clone it because it's already built in, but I guess it doesn't know that. Hey, Craig. Ashraz may come to a sudden arboreal stop. Yes, that could happen. You might be eating some tree bark today. I would never wish that on you, Ashraz. Building Magit, Corfu, Embark, Orderless, Marginalia, Vertigo, Themes. Okay. Uh-oh. My my computer went to sleep on the other side. Okay. Failed to parse package org, use package unrecognized keyword pin. Okay, let's take a look at that one. And Corfu global mode. That is one thing that did change. I think they changed it to global Corfu mode. So it does tell you that it isn't completely correct. Yeah, Alejandro. So let me fix what it did. If I tell it that it got something wrong with Corfu, it probably won't figure it out. But that's okay. What was the other thing that happened? Oh, it's doing native comp. Fantastic. It appears that evil mode is on. Okay, so evil mode did get loaded correctly. Let's load up an org file. So content, live streams, March. Let's get this stream from last time. Oh, and if you didn't notice, it did actually set up Vertigo and Marginalia correctly. What about Corfu? Let's go, hey, Control G. There we go. Let's go to an Emacs list file. Net.el. Let's see, find dash Control Alt. Oh, because Corfu didn't work. Embark, did it tell me any key binding for Embark? Let's see what it says for Embark. So it's got a bunch of stuff for org. Embark, meta A, Control Shift A, Embark Act. Okay, so Control Shift A. Okay, so Embark is working. So Embark works, orderless. Let's see, orderless probably does work based on what I'm seeing right now. So find file. Yeah, so what else? Magit blame file. Yeah, okay, so orderless seems to be working because it's doing fuzzy matching correctly. It obviously loaded the Doom themes. We'll ask it about the Corfu thing. So if I go to this org file that I have, can I do EL tab? Is tempo working? No. Okay, tempo doesn't seem to be working. I don't know why it did it that way anyway. To-do keyword faces. Let's see what to-do keyword face looks like. So TD? I don't know. Org to-do. I can't tell. See you, Raleigh. Okay, so evil works. It says enable control U scrolling in evil. Well, that didn't seem to work for me because it's not working right now, but I actually do want it to work. So let's try it. Let's go back to the configuration that it dropped for us, or to this chat anyway. Hey, Anton. I want to tell it for the Emacs configuration you gave me, there is a problem. It seems that Corfu global mode does not exist. Do you know why? Ah, yes, the pin keyword. Pin should work though. I think that's... okay, so it's telling me lies again a little bit because it doesn't know about global Corfu mode. Like if I were to say global Corfu mode, then it would work. But that's because global Corfu mode came later because they realized that they had to follow the standard naming conventions for global modes. So global Corfu mode. So Corfu. So I fixed that and it should load correctly now. So that's wrong, but that's fine. We know that that's wrong, but you may not know it's wrong if you hadn't heard that before. What else? There was one other thing I wanted to do. Oh, let's fix the control U behavior in evil. So in evil mode, the control U binding to scroll up is not working correctly. Can you fix it? Hey, Alex. Customizing the want use scroll. Okay, let's see. Let me see if it actually put it in the right place this time. Oops. So it's in init. Want integration. Ah, yes. So enable control use scrolling in evil. I think that it must have learned this comment string from looking at code, but it put it in the wrong place because it needs that actually for this to work right. So if I go inside of this init config here and drop this in, then that should fix it. Config evil mode 1. Oh, and it's pulling the avi config back, which is kind of funny, but that's fine. All right, so now if I were to close out, no. Close out the Emacs session, go back and run it again from the shell, then I think it should load up successfully this time. So this whole pin thing I need to look at. But Corfu mode should be loaded. So if I were to go into the Emacs Lisp file, new config, init.el, and then go here and say something like evil dash, yeah, so Corfu is working now, which is pretty cool. So there you go. I mean, just tell GPT-4 what Emacs packages you want to use and to write a config for you, and it works. Kind of shocking, honestly. So let's see. I want to ask it a funny question, then we'll move on to looking at GitHub Copilot. So can you produce an Emacs configuration that looks completely horrible and is extremely annoying to the user. I'm curious to see what that comes up with. Gun says, can you rewrite the Evo Collection MU4E module to cope with MU4E 1.10? Interesting. GK Sudo says, I wonder what it could do with built-in Emacs packages. You know, whenever it learns about Emacs 29, that will be an interesting question. Oh, okay. Did it freeze? Sometimes it freezes, so I need to send it this request again. It's easy to deal with this in their chat UI on the website, but probably not as easy here. But oh, what? Oh, okay. So what's happening here, it seems, is that this buffer, the full content of this buffer is being sent to the service endpoint every time, and I'm paying for these API requests, so I hope that I'm not gonna be paying a lot of money for using GPT-4 like this, but whatever. So anyway, it stopped me because of the length of the buffer. Because for it to have the appropriate context to give you the information you want, it actually has to have the whole history for every request, I think. Drew says it's not going to answer because you pose it as a malicious request. Probably. I think it started to say something like that as an AI language model. I don't want to be an asshole. Well, you know, I want you to. There's ways around that, I think. Ask it to fix this. It can't fix itself, I don't think. All right. So that was pretty funny. Let's actually take the init file, revert buffer. I want to take all of this. You know, it's doing some stuff. That overlay thing is doing something here. It's just not working right. I want to put this in the show notes, just so people can see what it did. GPT-4's minimal Emacs configuration. Okay. So now let's take a look at GitHub Copilot and see if we can do something similar. I wonder if the results will be as good as GPT-4, because I think that Copilot is not using that model as the base. It's using something else, like OpenAI Codex or something. But we'll see. So the package for this is the copilot.el package. I don't know if there's another one that works better, but the thing about this one is that it's not available on Melpa, I think. You actually have to clone it, I think. Yeah, either straight.el or Quelpa. Otherwise, you have to clone the repo yourself. So since I have straight, I can just pull it in like this, which is what I did in my configuration. So in fact, let me just show you what my config looks like at the moment, DW core. So for both these packages, this is how my config looks at the moment. So I have gptel. In fact, let me pull my config for that here. Oh boy, it's a long file now. But the way that I'm doing it is a little bit weird because I'm using setup.el, so you probably want to have like use package. I don't actually remember the use package syntax. Let's see, init. There we go. Oh, just set queues. That's fine. This part is not very interesting. We'll get back to it. Okay, so that in theory should work. All right, so let's go to this section here, and I'll drop my config in for this also. So in this case, we have a Copilot configuration that pulls in from straight. And there's a little bit of extra work that you have to do because of the way that Copilot works, but it's not really anything that major. We have this Copilot tab function, which actually was suggested by the README here. So I definitely recommend reading the README to understand how it works. And if you use company mode for completions, then there's some extra stuff or some different configuration you need. Also, if you use autocomplete, there's some different configuration you need. I think that's maybe the one I'm using. I'm using a sort of like a hybrid configuration just because I use Corfu for completions in my own config. So I've got, it pulls in copilot.el and then it sets up the stuff and then it turns it on for prog mode. But you also have to run a login script as well, I think, copilot login. And this copilot login command, you have to have Node.js installed on your computer because it has to, I don't know if it uses Node for like the entire interaction with the service, but it's definitely authenticating with GitHub. And I think it may be using some library to do GitHub authentication. So maybe that's all it's using it for. That's kind of a heavyweight dependency if that's all it's for. But anyway, make sure you have Node.js installed on your system. So I'm going to use copilot login. And it does this sort of device code login thing. I don't know if this is bad for people to be seeing this right now, but whatever. Press enter to open GitHub in your browser. Okay, so this is the wrong browser for that. That's okay. Let's do this one. Let me go back to... let's run it again. Copilot login. Okay, I copied it in here. So we'll paste it, continue. Cool. All right, so now that's logged in and it should be good to go. I don't need to do that same login again, I think. Actually, I think I screwed it up, but whoopsie. Let's go back here again and try it once more. I think I broke it. Yeah, I typed it, sort of. 3? Oh, great. I think I made a mistake. All right, let's try actually turning it on. So Copilot mode, it's a minor mode you can turn on in a buffer. So let me just see if it works. Let's see. Oh, okay, it might be working. So let's see here. Concatenate 2 strings. So I wrote that. I press enter. Okay, so it's working. So basically you can type a comment in any code file to say what you want to do next and press enter, and then it starts giving you suggestions. And if I want to actually use the suggestion, I press tab based on my configuration and then it pulls it in. So you can do a lot with this. It actually allows you to become more and more sophisticated with what exactly you can ask it to do. I was experimenting with it earlier today and got some pretty interesting results. For instance, let's ask it to write a function for us. So similarly to how we talked to GPT-4, you can sort of give it some requirements for what you want to write. So here's what we're going to do. I'm going to say, write a function that, and it keeps making suggestions, but we don't want that. Write a function that loops over all org mode files in a directory. Read the org file title and write the title of each file out to a temporary buffer, right? So I'll press enter here, and then boom, it gives me a function, and I can press tab to pull it in. So now it gives me this DW org file titles function. Now, I didn't tell it to use DW/. It actually looked at the other functions defined in this file and saw the code convention that I use for my personal functions, DW/, and it just used it. So that's pretty interesting. So let's actually see what it did. Org file titles dir with temp buffer. It runs a list over directory files recursively, and then gets the file, each file basically, and it uses this regex to find only the org files. Then it inserts, but first it inserts the file contents of the file that it found, pulls a headline, which is wrong. I think it's interpreting title as headline, but that's not what I want. But still, we'll see what it does. Inserts it into the buffer and then returns a string. Now, I didn't really tell it what I wanted to do with the temporary buffer, but it's returning a string. That's okay. Let's actually see whether it works or not. So I'll run this on, let's see, DW org file titles and projects, sites, system, crafters.net, content. Okay, this might take a while. Content/live streams. All right, so wrong type argument, char, or string p. So it did pull stuff out of files from an org file in that folder, because I see this updates thing, which is sort of what I usually do. But it has an error, so something's wrong with this code, which is like I said before, sometimes it just gives you stuff that's not right. So you can continue to work on it a little bit. So actually, what was that error? Can we see it here? No, that was a debugging session apparently. Backtrace, no, okay, whoops. Backtrace. Here we are. Ah, that's the old one, okay. Whatever. Copilot stealing my function naming convention? Yeah, it kind of is, but that's good though. So let's see, what can we say is wrong about this function? Actually, how about this? Let's use the power of GPT-4 to tell me if there is something wrong with this function. Oh, and I'll probably have to start a new session. So let's kill this buffer and run gptel. All right, so, and let's also make sure that we are, okay, I wanted to use GPT-4. Okay, so what is wrong with this Emacs list function? I wonder if it will work if I do it this way. Control C, actually, whoa. Control C, enter. It'll take a little while. We'll see what it does. Concatenates the titles of all headlines in all org files found recursively. One issue with functions is that with temp buffer macro is used unnecessarily twice. Okay. Huh. Now it gives a completely different take on this, but it doesn't actually know what the intent of the function was. So it's kind of interesting how it's like retranslating it, and I wonder if it's going to be right. Concatenates the titles of all headlines in all org files found recursively in dir. It understands by looking at that, reading the code, what the intent of the function is, even though the intent is wrong. One issue with the function is that the with temp buffer macro is used unnecessarily twice. Is it? Yes, it is. It is done twice, which creates two temporary buffers. It should be enough to use with temp buffer only once when processing each individual org file. Additionally, it's generally not recommended to use insert and buffer string to concatenate strings, as it can be slow and memory intensive. That was not the new version, I think. Instead, you can use map concat. Here's a revised version. This version only uses it once with temp buffer. So this is a new version. This time it's creating a list of titles, looping over everything, inserts the contents of the file, grabs the headline. Is that right? Can you use push like that? That doesn't seem right to me. Oh, that's actually org element map. Ah, okay, interesting. Well, let's try that function and see what it does. It's kind of interesting. It's interesting looking. I don't know if it's right. Okay. I'll try to run that again. Also has a problem. Wrong type argument character P updates. So the difference now is that I can actually tell it what I really meant to do. What I actually want this function to do is extract the title property of each org mode file under the directory. Can you fix the code? And now let's see what it does. We'll see if it actually manages to rewrite it. If you want to extract the title property, yes, that's correct. Here's how you do it. Now it's using a, ooh, that's kind of weird. Using a regex. You don't need a regex for this. There's functions for this. I'm cheating a little bit here. I should be using Copilot for this, but it just sort of shows you that it's not as useful, just Copilot, I think. So let me, oh, which one is it? This one. Okay, let's do this version of it. Run it again. Hey, it did it. So that's the string that's giving me all the stuff. If I go to the messages buffer, you can see that it's got all the titles of all, well, not all. Maybe it is all, actually. So that worked, and it wrote that code, and it rewrote it based on what I told it I actually wanted it to do. So you can see how powerful that part is. Let's see if we can get Copilot to do the right thing this time. So this is the working function. No, that was not the working function. This is the working function. This one's not good. And this one also doesn't work. Let's try it again. Let's try to be more specific. Write a function that loops over all org mode files and reads the org file title property. How about this? Title property, and write the title out to a temporary buffer. Now I'll press enter. Are we gonna get a result or no? Okay, now we go. I wonder if it's unhappy to see that other function there. Oh. Huh. What's going on? It doesn't tell me if it doesn't like something. Write a function that prints hello world. Okay, so it doesn't seem to be doing anything right now. I don't know why it came up with Dave Wilson. All right, that's weird. Apparently, at that point in the buffer, it's just sort of like refusing to do anything. So let's paste this here. It doesn't like this instruction, it seems, somehow. Let's go somewhere else. Title's on a property is a keyword for exporting. Craig says it's pouting. Yeah, it's doing something. It doesn't like the fact that I went behind its back and talked to GPT-4 instead. Okay, now it gives me something. Oh, I didn't hit tab. So it just didn't understand what I asked, but it, maybe it's just the copilot.el package that didn't convey that to me correctly. This time it gives me something. Oh, what just happened? Show have what? Now it's taking my own code from the function. What the hell is going on? All right, we're gonna put this here. We're gonna delete this out. Org file titles, dear. Yeah, this is just totally jacked up. It could just be that the state of this buffer is kind of messed up for Copilot, the Copilot library. Let's try it again. I'll just reopen it. Who knows? Dot files, Emacs modules core. It should be turned on by default now. So let's go back up here. It's not happy. Let's delete this. Okay, so it must just like recognize that I already had that in there. This time the code's a little bit different. Org with wide buffer. I don't know what that's all about. That doesn't sound right though. And it's still doing the with temp buffer twice thing. So the code is certainly less sophisticated. Oh, there was something else I wanted to try too with GPT-3. I wanted to see if it would write a decent Emacs configuration compared to GPT-4, but okay, so let's try to run this again. Yeah, still doesn't work. So that's some non-working code right there. I hope that they are able to set Copilot up with whatever is behind GPT-4 at some point in the future, because it would be way better if that was the case. Let me ask GPT about this in a clean session and see what it gives me. Let's make sure that it's using the right model. All right. Write a function that loops over all org mode files in a directory, read the org file title, and write the title of each file out to a temporary buffer. I'm not telling it that it's Emacs Lisp, so let's see what it does with that. Control-C, enter. Org titles to buffer. Oh, it's an interactive function too. That's kind of nice. But it's funny. It actually used with temp buffer twice. So, here's a possible implementation. Titles to buffer. Loop over all org mode files and directory. Read the title and write titles to a temporary buffer. This is the way that I would expect it to actually grab the title, using org element property title. That is the right way to get that information. But, oh no, it's using with current buffer. Okay, fine. Find file, no select file. That's actually better too. That's better than insert file, because I think that one's, well, maybe it's fine. It opens a buffer for that file, which is a little bit dangerous because it could save any changes back out by accident. With temp buffer, insert, switch to buffer, current buffer. What? Write titles to a temporary buffer. I think it took this very literally. Okay, let's run it and see what happens. Org titles, actually, it's interactive. Org titles to buffer. Okay, so projects, sites, system crafters, content, live streams. So it did write them out to the message buffer. The code worked. Oh, wait, no, title nil. No, it did not work. Ismail says, in Copilot, you can cycle through alternatives. I probably should do that. Yes, I know. So we could tell it to fix that, but I don't know if it's worth it. Like, it should have given me something good the first time, probably. With current buffer and temp buffer. Yeah, okay, fine. This doesn't seem to be reading the file titles correctly. They come out as nil. What else do I want to tell it? Also, I want the function to return a string with all of the titles at the, or actually, do I want that? I want the function to produce and switch to a buffer containing all the titles at the end. Or get title. Okay, let's see what it does. Yeah, org element property. You're right, Ashraz, it's not right. To read the files property, I need to use the org mode major mode. Huh, I still don't think that's right. Switch to buffer org titles. Let's see what it does this time. We'll run it again. Same thing. And it didn't give us any actual results here. So it's not reading them correctly, I believe. But I can tell it that. So if you know that it's supposed to use that other function, you can say, I think you should use org get title instead. I'm not telling it where. I'm not telling it how. Control-C, enter. Let's see if it understands what I mean. You're absolutely right. That's even worse. What? Org get title. All right. That's not a good selling point. Let's see here. Yeah. Not right. Anyway, okay. Hey, Hunter. So in this particular case, it's not doing well, but what I found with GPT-4 at least is that you can continue to coach it and get it to do things correctly. Usually you need to give it more context whenever you are sending prompts to it. You should tell it more information. What I should have said here is let's see, instead of using, what is it? Org get heading to get the title, use org get title? Is that right? Yeah. Okay. Let's see what it does now. Or get title is a more convenient function. Yeah, I told you that last time. Now it might work. Thank you for pointing that out. Yeah, well, thank you for being so cheerful about it. All right, there it is. So that worked. So sometimes you have to tell it things, but that's okay. I feel like these tools work best not whenever you're just like telling it to do things blindly and you expect it to be perfect. It's better if you look at what it's doing and you can tell it what it did wrong and then it can correct itself. The benefit of that, instead of writing all this yourself, is you didn't have to go look up all these functions to make this work. Like all this stuff with do list and princ and all these things, like you didn't have to sit there and think about which functions you're going to use for it. So it does save you a lot of time if you're just trying to get something done. Like for instance, if you're trying to add some functionality to do something with your workflow in Emacs, sometimes it's better just to let this thing write it for you so that you don't have to spend a whole lot of time agonizing over Emacs list details. So I think there's value to it. I think it makes sense. All right, so let's do one last thing. I wanted to see what GPT-3 would do with the same question that I answered before. So actually, let's just kill this buffer and create a new one because it's going to give me GPT-3, 3.5. And what did I ask it last time? I asked it, damn. I didn't save the prompt that I gave it. But let's see if I can remember what I told it. Can you write a minimal Emacs configuration with a nice color theme and using the following packages: Vertigo, Marginalia, Orderless, I forgot Consult, Orderless, Consult, Embark, Magit, Eglot, Org Mode, Evil Mode. That's good enough. Also use the straight.el package manager. All right, so this is GPT 3.5. Let's see if it actually does a decent job of this. I got a feeling it won't, but we'll see. Tia Peckley says, like a toddler, kinda. Well, it's a little bit better than a toddler, but still not a senior engineer by any means. Okay, so it's getting somewhere. Ooh, so, I forgot to tell it to use package. That was the other thing. So it actually is giving us a config that doesn't use package. That's pretty cool. All right, so not as detailed as an answer in terms of the explanation at the end. Very, very basic explanation. Let me try that again. Actually, can you use package to configure the packages instead? Let's see what that does. Gun says, and I want to help you, Dave. Stop it. Stop, will you? Stop, Dave. Will you stop, Dave? Stop, Dave. I'm afraid, Dave. Dave, my mind is going. I can feel it. Wow, what's happening now? Yikes, that doesn't really look right. Yeah, so this is lower quality for sure. Much lower quality output. The output from GPT-4 was shockingly good in terms of what you would do for a minimal Emacs config. This looks like a config that I would write if I were to go from scratch and write a config using use package. It's good. It's good stuff. And it works, aside from that one line or one or two lines, basically. So anyway, that's a look at how to use GPT 3.5, GPT-4 using the gptel package, as well as GitHub Copilot, which I find is useful but not as good as GPT-4. But like I said before, GPT-4 costs money to use because you have to, well, there's two things here. Actually, you don't have to pay for ChatGPT Plus, I think, to use GPT-4 in Emacs, because what you need is the OpenAI API key, and you have to turn billing on for that so they can charge you for using it, I think. And then you can use GPT-4 through the API. I think that's the case. I don't know how much it's going to cost you. I don't know how much it's going to cost me either. In fact, I'm curious to see if I can load that up really quick on my other machine. Usage. What's it telling me here? Okay, so I've used 9 cents worth of usage within the scope of this stream, I think. GPT 3.5 Turbo. Well, it may not be up to date. Okay, that's kind of interesting. Anyway, yeah, you need the API key, and you may have to turn billing on to use GPT-4. Pretty interesting. Also, actually, one thing I didn't show, which would be pretty cool to see. Actually, let's show it here, in fact. So gptel send. You can use this gptel send. In fact, let me go in this buffer and turn it to GPT-4. You can send any text in a buffer as a prompt, and then have it write out the response inside the buffer. So, should we use AI assistants? Well, let's see what GPT-4 has to say about that. gptel send. So it's just going to write us out some nice little information here. It can be a powerful tool to boost productivity and efficiency, especially for tasks such as auto-completion and code generation. Important to keep in mind that they are not perfect and may require monitoring and tweaking to ensure that they are producing high-quality results. Ultimately, decision is up to personal preference. What are some concerns with using AI assistants for writing and programming? Let's send that and see what it says. Reliability. Assistants are not perfect and may produce incorrect or irrelevant suggestions, which we did see. Security. AI assistants may use machine learning models that are trained on large data sets that could contain sensitive information. Concerns about how this data is protected and whether it could be accessed by malicious actors. Not sure what that means. Bias. AI assistants can perpetuate and amplify existing biases in programming and writing, such as gender or racial bias. Well, I mean, depending on what data is trained on, it will certainly be biased because the only worldview it has is based on what the inputs it got were. Ethical concerns. AI assistants can be trained on user data, and there are ethical concerns about the use of this data for commercial or political purposes. The commercial purposes is kind of interesting. Dependence. Over-reliance on AI assistants could lead to a decrease in individual problem-solving abilities or result in a loss of human creativity and imagination. I think the loss of human creativity part, that's wrong, completely wrong. And the reason why I say that is the average person who does not have skill in things like drawing or making music or writing books, they may have ideas of things they would like to accomplish creatively, but they don't have skill to do that. So who's to say that creativity is not just having an idea and then being able to tell someone else to do it? I mean, it's basically what a director is doing when making a movie, right? The director is not necessarily the one who's doing the acting. He's not doing the set creation. He's not, or he or she, or is not doing any of the technical work necessarily. They're just sort of like directing all of the creative work that gets put together for making a film, right? So who's to say that a person who's using an AI and thinking of ideas creatively to tell the AI to do for them, I mean, is that not creativity? I feel like that's fully there. If you say, okay, all AI will take care of all creativity from this point forward, nobody would go for that, because everybody wants to create stuff, I think, you know? Like, don't you think that you would want to still make things even if an AI could do a lot of the work for you? I think I would. In fact, it kind of inspires me to do more things I wouldn't have tried otherwise, to be honest. Ashra says, I'm kind of worried that ChatGPT uses my usual writing style for internet arguments. Am I an AI? After all, I cannot draw hands either. Ultimately, it stays guesswork until the first SC meetup. Yes, we don't know if you have 4 or 6 fingers on one hand, if you are an AI, or if you can draw a hand. So who knows? It is essential to be aware of these concerns and address them before using AI assistance for writing and programming tasks. I think, you know, there's kind of a big debate about whether things like Copilot are writing code for people based on code that was licensed as GPL, right? So if you have released GPL code on the internet and an AI goes and reads that code and then uses that as one of the many inputs to generate a line of code for someone else, what is the licensing for that? The problem is that it's a very difficult question to answer, and it cannot be the same answer in every case. What I'm sort of observing by using GPT-4, at least, because it's more sophisticated, is that it pretty uniquely puts together responses based on the specific things you ask. And the more specific you are, or the more detailed you are in what you ask, the more unique the answer is. So sure, it could have learned stuff by looking at GPL code on the internet, but the likelihood that it's going to produce the exact same output as some GPL code, I think is kind of low, unless you're asking like the most basic possible question that everybody would do the same exact way. So if you ask GPT-4 to write Docker, it's not going to write Docker exactly the same as Docker was written. It's going to do something different. If you ask it to write Emacs, it's not going to do the same thing as the code in Emacs does. In fact, it would be pretty funny to ask it to write something like Emacs. It would take a while, I think, but there's still legal concerns there, obviously. Also, if you're using GPT-4 to write blog posts or books, you know, anything that you might publish as yourself, I mean, there's definitely questions about whether that text is yours, copyrighted by you, if you didn't like actually change it at all, you know? Like if you just let it write everything for you without changing it, is that really your creation? Not really. So there's a lot of really interesting concerns about, or implications about, using the output of these tools, but I think you have to find the right way to use them to help with the process of writing code, so that you're not over-reliant on it doing everything for you. You're sort of just putting things together, basically, that it helps you with. So, Fade says they give copyright to photographers. You mean in terms of like a person takes a picture of something and that picture belongs to them? Well, I guess it's a creation, technically speaking. I mean, there's a lot of things that go into making, or for taking a picture, because you have the right equipment, you have the right lens, you have the right lighting, you have the right sort of creative perspective. So it's definitely less of a sort of creation in the typical sense, but it is a creation, I think. Eric says, a couple weeks ago, I asked ChatGPT to write an awesome WM config in Fennel Lisp. It made a lot of mistakes. Well, I think GPT-4 would probably do it a lot better. Teo Peckley says, you're going to get charged a whole $1 for creating another Emacs. That would be pretty funny, actually. It might result in that because, as you saw, we did about 10 cents of damage here. So if I keep asking it questions, it might end up being $1 or more. Maybe that's a good video idea. Create a new Emacs for $5 using GPT-4. That'd be pretty funny. Gunn says they charged a vlogger for displaying their photo wallpaper, which was copyrighted. Oh, really? That's kind of, I don't know. So there's the whole concept of fair use. And it really just depends. I'm not a lawyer, obviously. I just sort of understand a few things based on what I've read. And with fair use, I think that you're not distributing the image for other people to use. It's not like you're infringing on their copyright so heavily in that case, unless that image is a significant part of the visual style of your channel and you use it all the time. Then yeah, sure. 'Cause like this image, this background image I have on the screen. Let me actually see. Can I? It's not working. Anyway, this background image that I use is a Creative Commons licensed image, and I think I have the link to that in the show notes. I hope I do, at least. But anyway, the point is that like in my .files repo, I have this file in there, and I have the link to the original image for the license of it. So, you know, you do have to be wary of things like that for sure. Fade says, if you use a generative model as part of your toolkit, I don't see much difference. Well, the difference is that you're not going to get the same image again. It's if the generative model produces an image that looks exactly like another image, that's one thing. But it's not necessarily likely unless you told it to produce a variation on an image and it looks similar enough that it could have been another shot of the same scene. I don't know. Ashra says, writing your Emacs configuration via ChatGPT is something like a bad credit. You might get something very fancy and exquisite at first, but suddenly you have to declare Emacs bankruptcy again. Yeah. Yeah, if you find out that you don't have the copyright to your Emacs config, then yeah, you got problems. So was there anything else we wanted to discuss regarding the use of AI assistants? I mean, I think that it's pretty compelling. I'm still gonna like experiment with it myself because I feel like there's, you know, there are cases where it could be useful for things like planning, you know, coming up with a set of ideas for, I don't know, blog posts. Like maybe you want to think of like, you know, something related to a particular topic and you don't really have an idea, but you can ask it to give you some ideas for titles of blog posts and then you can go write one of those. Or what else? Code, obviously. That's one thing I've been using it for. In fact, today, I don't have the code right here, but the thumbnail for this stream was generated from code that was written mostly by GPT-4, but it didn't do it perfectly. In fact, it took me about an hour to go in circles with GPT-4 to get it to eventually give me exactly what I wanted. The point of that was that I really want to automate the creation of the thumbnails for the stream videos, and it actually allowed me to do that. The thumbnail that I produced for this stream is pretty close to the ones that I normally create. It doesn't have everything, and the color is a little bit wrong in some places, but it's close enough, so I know that it's possible. Using it for writing personal tools, or at least, you know, getting them started, I think is pretty powerful. So if there's things that you've been wanting to do that you've been putting off because it takes a lot of effort to write a tool to do the thing you want to do, using something like GPT-4 can be pretty useful for getting things started. We really do need some guidance from legal authorities on how you can license code written with GitHub Copilot or GPT-4, especially open source licenses, because if you don't actually own the copyright to the code, then you don't really have the right to license it under an open source license. So it's kind of weird, especially if you're trying to license it under a proprietary license, like if you have a company and you're putting it in your product, you know, but people are using it for that. So I don't know. Rustislav says, it seems like the Emacs Copilot package for geeks is not that hard to write. I will be happy to use that and the gptel one whenever you get those in. It'd be great. Minas Mazer says, don't use those demonic tools, please. Yes. I love the idea that I'm summoning Satan to write code for me. Ismail says, I asked GPT-4, it said, don't worry. I don't know. Let's see. So, is it possible to use code generated by Copilot or GPT-4 license? Let's see. Is it possible to release code generated by Copilot or GPT-4 under an open source license? It's going to tell me no, I think. Whoa, what happened? Oh, I have to do the send thing, right? I also need to put some disclaimers in these responses here. Ultimately owned by the creators of these systems, and there are potential legal and ethical issues with releasing it under an open source license. Since the code is generated using proprietary models and data, it may not be legally permissible for it to be released under an open source license. It may raise ethical concerns around ownership and attribution for the generated code. Yes, so that is kind of dangerous in some ways. Ultimately, it is important to carefully evaluate the legal and ethical implications of releasing code generated by AI systems. Yeah. ChatGPT may not give such a nuanced response. What's the difference between GPT and GPL? I don't know. Let's do this just so that people don't think I wrote these things. Anyway, I mean, I think it's pretty interesting, right? Like just seeing how this stuff works and seeing that you can put it in Emacs. Fade says, Sam Altman is more charismatic than Richard Stallman. Yeah. You could say that. I watched the interview that Lex Friedman did with Sam Altman. I've watched almost all of it, so it's pretty useful to understand the mentality behind OpenAI and how they approach things. Cool. So I think that we did enough here, right? Whoa, what did I do? I'm trying to get out. Why is it not showing me the entire document? Unless it deleted it. That'd be pretty fun. Org present. Okay, there it is. Anyway, if you are interested in checking out gptel or Copilot, I'm going to try to get these config snippets put into the show notes and committed. It may be, you know, a little while before I do that because I have to go eat dinner now, but probably in an hour or two I'll get it uploaded, and I'll add a couple extra notes here about like what you need to do to sign in to both of these things to use the services from within Emacs. But definitely give it a shot and see what you think. I mean, it's definitely an area that still not very well understood as far as the implications of using these tools, but I think for personal use, if you're building tools for yourself that you're not necessarily going to distribute to other people, then the sky's the limit. For trying to come up with ideas or write stuff in your Emacs configuration. So I think it has a lot of value in if you want to give it a shot. So anyway, thanks a lot, folks, for being here today. I really appreciate all of the input and suggestions in the chat. And we'll see you next week. Until next time, happy hacking. Thanks a lot.